video today is on our Wes Craven review series is Shocker, made in 1989 as a direct competition to Freddy Krueger. Mateo, anything else you want to add? I didn't go full. I didn't.
Yeah, it would be kind of difficult to do a plot synopsis for this movie.
So basic plots, and we'll explain the plot as we get into it. Let's jump into our positives of the movie. You go first. I still need.
Actually, can we start with negatives? I think I could, I think it's in reverse order this time, where I have a lot more positives, so I could save them for last, and we can get.
All right, and I have a lot more negatives.
Oh, so you know what? I'll do positives first. We'll start it off positive.
All right, positives. You go first.
The whole ending is great. I love the ending. Where they're jumping through the TVs and the different stations. It's great, and it's pretty wild. Amazing World of Gumball kind of one episode of that kind of ripped this off. With the remote control. Have you watched Amazing World of Gumball?
I am a Gen Z kid, of course. I have watched Amazing World of Gumball.
You know that episode with Rob and they have like a remote that can kind of control reality?
No.
No, so they have like a pause button remote and they can just pause Rob, and that's like the ending of the episode.
Okay.
Just like this movie. But it was good. The ending part.
Anything else?
Just the overall like wildness of it. It's pretty crazy. Like a lot happens in it. Where like other Wes Craven movies, I find quite dull. Like throughout this one, it just had a lot going on. Even if what was going on wasn't great, it was really interesting. Like consistently interesting.
I need a little more hype here. We need a lot more. Okay, do you have any more positives?
No, not really.
No. My positives. I think for the first 40, 50 minutes before he turns into electric guy is really good. I really dug the first 40 minutes of the movie when it's just this hunt for the killer. I think Wes Craven does a really good job at directing it, and he was also the writer for this movie, so his writing is good. I think Mitch Pileggi, the guy who is Shocker, Horace Pinker in this movie, does a really good job at portraying the psychopath. I think the main character of I forgot his name. It's been a while.
Yeah, I can't remember it either, and I just watched it.
Well, either way, he's also a director. You might know him for Lone Survivor and Hancock.
He directed Hancock?
Yeah.
Oh,
he's a director. He also directed Patriots Day.
Yeah, I agree with you though. The guy that played the villain in this movie gave a really good performance.
Yeah, and I would say I also like the concept of it. Out of all the Wes Craven movies I have watched so far, this is the one I want the remake of the most. Because this has the most to improve for me, honestly. Okay, let's move.
I could definitely see that with like a lot of the 80s-ness kind of gets in the way. You know, even with like the soundtrack. You know, all that like...
Oh no, I love 80s soundtracks.
I know, but like, it's cool, but they had it in like some really inappropriate spots. Like they're playing the metal when the guy's getting ready to go to the electric chair. It's like, It was cool though.
That's perfect. It felt a bit inappropriate. That's perfect placement.
Oh no!
It's an 80s movie. That's perfect placement.
No, it's supposed to be dark and you're supposed to be worried about it, but nah, just play like this really goofy 80s music.
Oh well. Let's move on to our mixed. You got anything
that I'm mixed about?
Because I got nothing.
I guess I could say the plot of the movie because, like I said before, it's really energetic and it's really crazy and all over the place. But at the same time, I have no idea like how any of this makes sense. You know, like
We will get to that in my negatives.
what is up with the ghost thing? And then he hit his head on like a post, so now he has dreams and he can see the villain. And there's like some weird ghost world, and it made no sense.
Okay, let's move on to my negatives because I'm about to unload on this thing. First negative, the movie feels like it's going. Sometimes in the movie, it feels like it's about to end and it doesn't. Like there are multiple points throughout the movie where I'm like, are we about to end the thing? Is it over? And then it just keeps on going. It's like I seriously think there are like 5 climaxes within this movie, but they're not climaxes. It's like I feel like this movie should have been like an hour and 30 minutes with the amount of like close climaxes, like how it was about to end. And that other thing, like you said, none of this makes sense. I mean, nothing is explained on why this kid has dreams and why he dreams of his father, which apparently, yeah, it is his father. Why is there a ghost world? Why is there a necklace that prevents the electric guy from going close to him? Why is there a ghost world? How do you get into that ghost world? What is happening? How does any of this work?
Yeah.
There's no rules to anything. It's just madness, which can be fun, but come on.
A
I
lot of
mean,
things just kind of happen in it.
I think this needed like the Nightmare on Elm Street runtime. Any where you know the rules, you know how everything works. You go on your little thrill ride, and then you're done. This
Hmm.
needed to be like someone needed to be on Wes Craven's shoulder saying like, "Can you end it quicker? Because this is ridiculous."
Well,
And I have nothing against long horror movies, but when you have this many close climaxes and almost nothing makes any sense. Eh.
yeah, I totally agree with you because they throw way too much into this movie, and we're like
And
Nightmare on Elm
here's
Street. It's just one really solid idea, you know, like you go to
it's a
sleep,
cool
Freddy
concept
gonna kill
based
you.
loosely on reality, and you play it straight for 90 minutes. And that's one of the best horror movies in my opinion
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it
but
knows its idea, it has strong characters, and it delivers on its premise, and it's great. Serpent and the Rainbow has a very good premise, follows through on that premise in a very creative and fun way, and we're done.
totally agree. It's just to me this isn't much of like a horror movie or like a concept film, but it's more just like some wacky '80s movie that it's
Oh, it
kind
definitely is.
of a
I can
guilty
definitely
pleasure.
see myself watching it like with a friend, and we just make fun of it like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah, yeah. And it really shows in like the effects and the soundtrack and the way it's shot, especially
The
like the
effects are
effects.
somehow worse than the ones in Serpent and the Rainbow.
Oh yeah, Surfing in the
Like if you
Rainbow's
remember,
more
like they
contained.
actually had some, because if you watch Serpent and the Rainbow and like the last like act of the movie, even though they used like early 80s CGI, they did it surprisingly well. Like when he's jumping through like clouds of smoke, like I remember that. That always sticks with me. Or even some of the things where he's like with the like magic lights thing that somehow ages better for me than whatever this is.
Yeah,
This is
this
why I say could use a remake by someone who isn't a music director.
yeah this is some weird popularist entertainment where like they just throw so much at you and they just want an excuse to use a bunch of special effects and have these fun sequences and they're fun, but as a whole it's not really cohesive, you know.
I think I blame this mostly on the problem that Wes Craven mainly did this movie to combat Freddy because a little nightmare history lesson. When he wrote the script for the third movie, they had the entire script taken from him and rewritten to a way that he didn't like it. So he basically was trying to like combat Freddy throughout his almost entire career, And this movie, it shows. Like, he's adding so many ideas. He's adding dream sequences. He has adding all this crazy stuff that would work well if it was fleshed out, but it doesn't. It's nothing. This is all him trying to outdo himself, even though he doesn't really have to. He just has to make a good movie, which he is capable of.
Yeah, yeah. If one thing, if you compare like Freddy to this movie's antagonist, Freddy's a much better
Oh
antagonist.
yeah.
And it's also another problem with the movie's plot is that take Nightmare on Elm Street or most horror movies, it's the horror villain coming after the heroes and the heroes just not being ready for it. And there's a constant tension even during like the filler moments because you feel like there's the horror villain lurking around, you know, there's a threat and he's coming for you. This guy in this movie, the hero isn't passive. The hero is coming after the villain. You know what I'm saying?
Well, in the beginning, it makes sense
Mhm.
because he's like, I have to find this guy before he stops killing. And the rest of the movie, it's like, well,
But
I
then he
don't think
just like
he's
keeps going after him.
like, I mean, I personally didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was fine. I mean, it didn't bother me. I actually liked it a little, but
To me,
I guess I can see it.
it just makes the filler scenes a lot less interesting, you know, because there always
Also,
feels
how
like
does he know how to like take down this guy in multiple different ways? I mean, how does he know like if I do this, then he can be killed? And how does everyone else just automatically like, oh, so this is happening? Okay, we believe you. We believe you in this incredibly strange story that you're telling us that a serial killer has become electricity and is possessing people.
makes no sense, Wes Craven. I don't know what the
I
heck
mean, I
that was.
guess it kind of makes sense. I know there's supernatural stuff, like he makes a deal with the devil, and people will do, like, if you actually, because humans do have a bit of electricity in them, so it makes sense, like, through the possession kind of stuff. But I'm talking about how he knows how to take them down, take them down. That doesn't make any sense.
To be honest, though, I really didn't care because it was kind of fun. You know,
No.
a lot happened in this movie, and a lot of
What
it
was
was
the
really enjoyable to me.
what was the budget on this movie?
Yeah.
Or, um, let's see. Hold on. Shit. 5 million.
Oh.
5 million was the budget. 5 million. That's not a lot of money in movie making.
Yeah.
To be fair, it is a horror movie, so.
Yeah, it felt a little low budget, but you know, with what they did with that money, they did quite a lot. They had a lot of
They
different
did.
effects in there. What I really liked, I think, a
5 million
standout
is
effect.
different in today's money than it is in their money.
Yeah,
Right?
plus like inflation, you know, so like
Yeah.
it's like more like 25 million now. But
Yeah.
my favorite effect in the movie is gonna have to be when like the dude bit the guard's lip and it just
Oh
kind of
yeah, that was.
out.
Yeah, I liked everything. I think as soon as like he became like actual electricity, I was liking the movie. I was like, this is really good. I like it.
Um,
And then it just went like, this is stupid. Like the whole dream sequence where he's with his dead girlfriend in that land of ghosts. I was like, what
nah,
is happening?
no,
What
that was
is?
fun. Cause remember what that the coach said in that scene? He was like, "You gotta stop napping, get your ass up, and like fight the guy." Remember that?
Yeah.
That was kind of fun.
This is gonna sound like a weird complaint, but I didn't think there was enough gore in this movie. Like I didn't think there was enough like. Listen, I know I may sound like a sadist here, but when you go to a horror movie, you expect a good amount of carnage. Like, and with an idea of like this, I expect, oh, this is gonna be insane. This is gonna be Evil Dead stuff. No,
You watched Evil
I
Dead?
no, but
Oh,
I've seen trailers. they get the idea
We
across.
gotta. Yeah, I was about to say you watched Evil Dead without me because we gotta talk about that in the podcast.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite movies. But I agree with you. Like when the girlfriend dies, like what was that death scene, man? Because it's just her on the floor for a little bit and a little bit of blood
It's
by her hand. But
on the she's in the bathtub with all the blood, if I remember correctly.
nah, she was just like on the floor and there was just like a little bit of blood by her arms for like a brief
Yeah.
moment, and then they just cut to the next moment. It was kind of weird.
And and I will say this again, while I do like the performance, I don't care for the look of the killer. I think when he was like in that jacket and he was like with the appliance gear, I liked his design better like that. And I also didn't understand the idea of him being limp because it made no difference in the film.
I guess that was just a little thing that the kid could say to the dad. Another negative though, the dad was pretty bad. I'm not
And acting wise or
acting
just
wise, even look wise, he wasn't great. His physical performance, his voice was just I don't know. There's something so unintimidating about that man's voice. Like he just doesn't. I don't buy him as this like tough dad cop, and he's trying so hard, but it's like it just doesn't work for me. You know,
oh,
he's
well.
yelling at his kid.
He I can't even do that. It's been so long since I've watched this movie. I remember a good amount of it, but I just it's jeez. This movie, I one more positive I think I can add to it. Even though I think there are too many climaxes, some of them are pretty fun. Like the whole time when his dad is possessed, I thought like, oh, that's fun. That is fun. Hey, that was pretty
The
cool.
the park scene.
The park scene. Oh,
Yeah, when they're in the park for like a solid 15 minutes, and he like possesses this little girl to like beat him up.
oh. You also know how I why I keep on saying Wes Craven's favorite word is B. You know the
The bitch word.
yeah. This is the movie I will point to because you know how many times the villain of this movie just says. This is why I think every Wes Craven movie says that word because of this movie. Like if you watch any Wes Craven movie at least once, they say I'm gonna use have you ever watched The Good Place?
No, no.
Well, never mind.
Hit me with it. Hit me with it.
Bench.
Bench.
That's what I'm gonna say. Bench.
Stupid bench.
And it's just every Wes Craven movie that a villain has to say it. That is a thing in a Wes
Or
Craven movie.
fucker. They got this little girl to say fucker. They did. This is like when she got on the what was it? It was a crane, I think. She just said like, "I'm gonna get you, you."
That was silly. That was fun.
I know, but again, it's just ridiculous, and it's.
I think I would have a much better time if I watched it with a friend and we were just riffing on it.
Yeah.
Because this movie on my own, when you're questioning the logics of it, it makes zero sense. Actually, I'm pretty sure Roger Ebert gave it a score. Ebert. Shocker. Yeah, he did. What did he give this movie? Shocker. No, I'm not looking for Lucha Mexico. No.
One thing I will say about Wes Craven, I think the way he shoots his movies, a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but the way he shoots his movies, I just don't really find that they create a lot of intensity, just the filmmaking. There are a few exceptions to this, The Serpent and the Rainbow, parts of
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm. But in general, it's like he has way too much cutting in his movie, and he just doesn't really let you soak in the atmosphere a lot of the time. And
I have no idea what you're talking about, but sure, why not?
Okay, well, because like, look, he cuts a lot, and he doesn't let you really get sucked into a scene and just soaked into the moment, you know? Because you're on to the because he's always trying to get to the next thing, you know? It feels like he's he's trying to rush through it because he feels like his audience is going to get bored, so he has to like cut to the next thing and cut and cut and cut. And it's kind of different in this movie because in this movie there's so much he has to get to because he's just created this huge mess of a plot, so he has to constantly just keep going on to the next thing. But it doesn't really give you time to feel the emotion of the scene. Like, for example, when the girlfriend dies, right? It's like he's giving you the information visually that the girlfriend's dead, but how does that make you feel? Like, maybe shocked for a moment, but you don't really feel much about it. And the character, you don't really get to feel the character's heartbreak over his girlfriend dying. It's like a lot of movie makers forget that there's these small things that happen in a movie, and there's so much that happens in some movies that it's hard to remember, but you can take these small little things and make them become something bigger. Because when you break them down, it really is kind of crazy what's happening in this movie. It's like his girlfriend's dead, and you're just gonna like skip over it basically to get to the next part where the freaking goofy villain is possessing some little girl.
You do realize this is a 80s horror movie that was made by a company who mainly produces rock music.
Really? Wait, let me look that.
Yes.
I didn't know about that part. It still doesn't change it for me because that's just a movie thing, like a pet peeve I have for movies. All my favorite movies that you feel a lot, and that's why with this one, I just didn't take it seriously, and it was just fun.
I don't think it was even there. I don't think it was even meant to be taken seriously.
I know, but like as a horror movie, what are
Yeah.
you trying to achieve as a horror movie? You're supposed to scare the viewer, right? Never was
Yes.
scared. Uh, Never was intimidated.
To be
Um,
fair, I am very hard to scare for horror movies. I'm
yeah,
not that squeamish.
yeah. But this one, I don't feel like it would even scare the the most squeamish of horror fans, and it's just
I
not
think
good.
this movie was meant. So judging by this came out like in the combating like later year Freddy, like it's trying to combat a like Freddy Krueger who later became a goofball. I think their intention was let's just have it all be fun. Let's just make this fun. Let's just go nuts. Have fun.
Yeah,
I don't think this movie was meant to be a horror film, at least up until the 40-minute mark before it just let loose.
that is why I am okay with this one. This one's fine. It's okay because
I
it's
thought
not.
when you opened the video, you sounded like you really liked this movie.
No, well, I did because I just finished watching it. So there was like a bit of like, oh, this is kind of cool hype. But the more I think about it, the less great it really is. It shines in a few moments where it's fun, but I couldn't say that many aspects of it were really good, other than me really enjoying the special effects. That was
This
fun,
is why this is one of the Wes Craven's weaker works
hmm
because it just goes too crazy, which is either gonna make or break your experience with the next movie because it is wild, like this one, but it actually is cohesive.
I'm curious about it because Wes he makes a lot of different stuff. A lot of it I don't really love, but it's
The stuff he
interesting.
does, but the stuff he does, you do like, it's really good.
Yeah,
And trust me, his
not quite.
from here on out, it will be mostly hits.
All right, cool. Like music of the heart, right?
I actually heard Meryl Streep nearly got an Oscar for that movie.
Really? Well, she's
Yeah,
Meryl Streep. I wouldn't be
yeah.
surprised if that. Meryl Streep gets Oscars for uh, like some
Fakey.
performances. I don't know. If Meryl Streep's in a movie, she's probably looked by on the Academy very positively, and she's given a lot of Oscar noms. I'm kind of blabbering right now. Let's
Yeah.
get back to Shocker.
Okay. Overall, my final score is a generous 5 out of 10.
I give it a 6, but maybe I didn't justify that through what I've said about it, but
You really didn't. You had two positives.
okay, I will elaborate. It is, it's not a good horror movie. It's a bad horror movie. It's not very well made. It's not very clever, but it's a guilty
It
pleasure
is.
because
It
it's
is. It can absolutely be a joyride. I like when Wes Craven does these outlandish concepts, like crazy ones.
yeah, and it really works for me at the end where they're just like TV hopping and they end up in like Frankenstein for a little bit. I'm like, oh wow, that's cool. They
Yeah.
they put them in Frankenstein and it was like a YTP. It was like a YouTube poop, but in like an 80s movie.
Okay. So far we are done with the 80s section of Wes Craven, which apparently has been mostly low points, with some very good ones in between.
We did it, Aiden.
We did it.
We
We're
made it.
not done yet. We
After
are
like
four.
7 months, we made it.
What would you say are your favorite Wes Craven movies at the moment?
At the moment, this is top three material for me. I really did not do this movie justice, but it would go A Nightmare on Elm Street, Serpent in the Rainbow, Shocker, Deadly Blessing, The Hills Have Eyes, Last House on the Left, The Hills Have Eyes Part 2, Swamp Thing, and then Deadly Friend.
Really? Swamp Thing dead last? We had so much fun.
No, no, no.
It
Deadly
was
Friend dead last. Deadly Friend's
oh,
really the worst. Deadly Friend's terrible.
I agree on an objective level it is terrible, but my god, that movie is just hilarious to me. My favorites. At this point, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Serpent and the Rainbow, The Hills Have Eyes, um, Deadly Blessing. Wait, no, no, not Deadly Blessing. Deadly Friend, Deadly Blessing, Shocker. Actually, Shocker and Deadly Blessing are tied. The Last House on the Left and Hills of Ice Part Two. And I forgot to put Swamp Thing up there somewhere. It's between five
How
and
could you
six.
put Hills Have Eyes Part 2 dead last?
Listen,
How
it
could
is
you?
boring as sin to me.
That was a highlight of his career for me.